Hello, welcome to Digital View, the show that uses all the tools the web can give us to re-engineer the news agenda. Coming up today, the virtual currency that's gaining currency. Is it time the world markets started taking Bitcoin seriously? The cutting edge meets the cutting edge. We'll have a report from the world's top techno art fair. And who's up for a MOOC? Find out about the growing trend for university-level, massive online open courses. Well, this week's discussion all about Bitcoin. So we thought through the programme, we're asking you whether it's really destined to become a major internationally traded currency. You can just tweet yes or no with the hashtag DigitalView. We'll count up the results at the end of the programme. You can also get in touch using the Twitter name @SkyDigitalView or tweet me directly @MartinStanford. Now, for the uninitiated, Bitcoin is cash that exists only online, and it can't be controlled by any country's central bank. In December last year, its value rocketed to 10 times what it had traded at just a couple of months before. Since then, as you can see, the graphs gradually come down, decreasing to be worth a little over $400 per Bitcoin. Alongside that, more and more online shops are accepting it. Bitcoin cash machines have started springing up around the world. So the question is it a good place for adventurous investors to park their money? Or the best way for techies to shop on Amazon? Or is it even traceable enough to be a dream currency for a black economy? Well, joining me to discuss this, Michael Parsons, who's a banking management consultant who advises on Bitcoin. And via Skype from New York, we have Jeffrey Robinson, who's written Planet Bitcoin, a book that's called The Debunking of the Industry's Myths. Jeffrey, you suggest this is more worrying than some kind of Ponzi scheme. Tell us why.
Yes, of course I do. First of all, the book is called Bitcon, B-I-T-C-O-N, The Naked Truth About Bitcoin. And the reason I'm worried about it is because when I pulled the curtain back and looked at all the hype and misinformation and the spin that's out about Bitcoin, what you see is not what you get. In fact, there's no there.
Michael Parsons, do you share Jeffrey's misgivings about what Bitcoin might be about?
I think Bitcoin is the world's first private digital currency, and it is still very much in its infancy. It is an experiment, and the stage of Bitcoin now is the same stage we were at of the internet in 1992. And to say that Bitcoin has no value, the same statement can be applied to the existing fiat currencies. They have no value, they have no backing, and they only have value because they're made legal tender by governments.
Jeffrey, you're shaking your head.
Utter nonsense. Michael, utter rubbish. First of all, it's an experiment that so far has failed. If you look at Bitcoin as a weighted currency against all the other currencies in the world, it is basically a non-event, including the trading, the buying and selling of goods and services with Bitcoin. It's a non-event. The market cap right now for Bitcoin is about $5 billion, $5.2 billion. That means it can't stand toe-to-toe with the non-convertible Cuban peso. At its biggest time, at its biggest market cap, when it hit $1,240, which was a pump and dump scam orchestrated by two bots in Japan, when it hit $1,240, it came in a distant second, not even a close second, but a distant second to the Uzbekistan sum. To say that we can say the same thing about the beginning of the internet is true. We can say the same thing about the beginning of 8-Track and Betamax and Edsels. The fact is, it is not what people think it is.
OK, Jeffrey, hold it there a second. Michael, try and reassure us then. Jeffrey's cast some aspersions. Why should we have any confidence in this?
I think Bitcoin is just the first iteration of what will be a raft of digital currencies. I think what Bitcoin has given us two things. It's given a new way of creating money or making money, and I think Bitcoin is the poster boy, and I think Jeffrey will agree with this. It's not going to be the final iteration, and Bitcoin may well fail in the future. But what Bitcoin has given the world, something very important, it's given us the blockchain. So we're now seeing what I call the blockchain revolution.
OK, now I think you two can probably agree about that. Jeffrey, in a minute, but just, Michael, let me stay with you. Can you just explain this blockchain? Because it's supposed to be quite smart technology here.
Well, what the blockchain is, it's a decentralized, programmable blockchain, and when you put transactions on it, they're all in the cloud. As Jeffrey has said in his book, you can do smart contracts, you can have voting on the blockchain, it's controlled by mathematics, it's very fair. Bitcoin is the first and so far only iteration on the blockchain, and there are a number of very smart companies looking at the blockchain to do things like clearing systems, even to create new digital currencies.
And Jeffrey, you would agree with that, would you? That blockchain is good. That's sound technology.
Absolutely. But the problem is there are two Bitcoins. There's Bitcoin, the blockchain, which is absolutely revolutionary and will change the world. And then there's Bitcoin, this pretend currency, which is a charade and a mirage. Now, when you're talking about the blockchain, no doubt about it. And Michael is right that this is the beginning of our digital currency world. But the fact is, he used the word decentralization. It's all well and good to have decentralization, but the big kids are now getting into the blockchain. The work being done in the Silicon Valley and the work being done in Britain. I know of a major project in Britain on the blockchain that has nothing at all to do with currency. It has to do with building a business that people will use because it solves practical problems. And when you get into the idea of solving practical problems, what you're talking about is dollars and pounds and euros, not this funny money currency, pretend currency called Bitcoin, which is based on thin air and actually has no intrinsic value at all, as opposed to the pound and the dollar, which is legal currency and therefore has value.
Well, Michael, just explain what Jeffrey's trying to say there, because on the face of it, it does have a value. If there's a cash machine and I have some Bitcoin credits, I can get real dollars or real pounds out of a machine, can't I?
Well, if you look at Aristotle's definition of money, he says money has to pass 4 tests. 1 is durability, 2 is portability, and 3 is divisibility, and 4 is intrinsic value. Now, we could argue whether Bitcoin has got intrinsic value. I would say it has by its use. It's currently worth about £236 per Bitcoin. So it does pass the Aristotle test for money. That being said, it is very, very small, and it's a pinprick in relation to the world's fiat currencies.
Jeffrey, it is being used, isn't it, in many of the investment programs, like Kickstarter, for instance. You can invest in Kickstarter on Bitcoin?
Well, wait a minute. First of all, Aristotle is dead and no longer matters. There is a definition of currency, and Bitcoin, the pretend currency, fails at every level of that definition. Furthermore, there is no such thing as circular flow of income with Bitcoin, which means that every time somebody uses a Bitcoin, it is not the purchase of an item that then gets spent on the supply of goods and services by the seller. It is a dead-end sale. It is the sale of Bitcoin. And if you look at the transactional use of Bitcoin, it is minuscule, absolutely minuscule. I mean, Michael, I'd love to hear Michael tell me and your viewers how many people actually have Bitcoins. How many? Give a number.
Michael?
Less than about active users, probably less than 10,000 people in the world, active users. Apparently, it's about 4.5 or 5 million wallets.
Well, 5 million wallets, which are 5.8 million wallets, which are mostly empty, and people have multiple wallets.
I agree.
Now, Coinometrics
yes.
actually better figure. Yeah, Coinometrics in Cambridge came up with a better figure. They said there are 250,000 people holding Bitcoin. You understand that is fewer than the members of the Kuwait Airways Frequent Flyer Club. We're talking about nobody on a global scale. Globally, it's non-event. Now, let me say this. Digital currencies and digital payments are the future. Absolutely, there is no doubt about that. Bitcoin is a stop along the way. It's part of a process. And if you look at what happens to technology, how long does technology actually last until something better comes along? We're talking about 2, 3, 4 years.
Sure.
I promise you in 5 years' time, we will be talking about the blockchain, and Bitcoin, the pretend currency, will be thought of as pogs and pet rocks.
Jeffrey, let me just ask you about this. Both of you, actually, about the anonymity involved. Because there is maybe it's a simplistic headline, but the headline is Bitcoin is a way of laundering money, and therefore the dark side of the world, or villains, or gangs, or terrorists are using it. True or not true? What do you think, Jeffrey?
Well, you know very well what I know about laundering money, and I've written several books, including Laundryman, which is the definitive book on money laundering. And what I say in Bitcoin is that Bitcoin is a lousy way of laundering money because you don't actually launder it. It, however, is a very good way for criminal finance, tax evasion, and for capital flight. For moving money, it's terrific. For laundering it, it actually is awful. But it is the currency of the dark web. If you want to go down into the dark web and buy your drugs and your arms and your kiddie porn, you need to have Bitcoin. Which I don't actually condemn Bitcoin for that, because you can buy drugs and kiddie porn and arms with pounds and dollars. So that's not the problem. The anonymity question is.
Why would you have your clients involved in this rather dark, murky world then, Michael?
Well, I think the dark, murky world, as Geoffrey has said, is a very, very small part of it. I mean, most of the activity on money laundering is used in cash, and if we want to stop all the money laundering, we should stop printing £50 notes, €400 bills, and $100 bills.
Well, yes and no. €500 notes, absolutely. But no, that's not how you stop money laundering. There are other things. It's much more complex than that. But I don't blame Bitcoin for money laundering. It's very, very good for capital flight and criminal finance. But that's not the problem with it. The problem is the hype and the misinformation and the spin. And I mean, if you listen to the Bitcoin Foundation and what they put out, these are a bunch of self-interested snake oil salesmen trying to goose the price up so that they can sell their Bitcoins for a higher value.
Geoffrey, we'll have to leave it there for today. I'm sure we're going to return to this. Geoffrey Robinson, Michael Parsons, thank you both very much.
Thank you very much.
Now, where do you go to find artists who paint with waves, canvases made from light, and works designed exclusively to be exhibited in outer space? We sent our technology correspondent Tom Cheshire along to the weird and wonderful world of the Kinetica Art Fair.
Frieze may attract the celebrities and the megabucks, but in a corner of East London, another type of art fair is taking place. Kinetica is in its 6th year and, as its name suggests, celebrates kinetic art. Artwork that doesn't stand still. Holograms, motors, gyroscopes, water wheels, magnets, zoetropes. If it moves, it's here.
I think the nature of what the artists that Kinetica represents, our artists really pushing the boundaries, so they're crossing over into science, physics, mathematics, you know, like biology, what's happening in the latest smart materials. So they're working, using those as their tools, like paintbrushes.
Kinetic art may use all kind of new technologies to satisfy the creative urge, but it dates back to the 1920s. It took off during the 50s and 60s. These pieces, on show at the fair, are from that era.
Kinetica stands proudly outside the mainstream. It's full of weird, wonderful, and some rather beautiful objects. But, as the age-old question goes, is it art?
Well, it's not art in the traditional sense. When we go to an art gallery, we go to see emotion. We go to see the artist's guts spilling out over the canvas. Here, you're not going to find that. You're not going to get gut-wrenching reactions as much as you would do looking at a Turner. But it's the way that art is going, really. You know, art has become quite circus-like.
If that's the case, this is one of the more entertaining circuses in town. A tightrope walk between art and technology. Tom Cheshire, Sky News.
Some of the world's best-known universities are opening up their doors to a new kind of student. MOOCs, that's massive online open courses, allow anyone to take a degree-level course in a vast range of subjects from the comforts of their own home. Coursework is marked, and it's a university experience that remains entirely free. FutureLearn is backed by 40 institutions around the world, and close to 500,000 students have taken a course. All that, and it's only just celebrated its first birthday. Well, joining me this morning is Head of Product, Matt Walton. They don't really call you Head of Product, do they, Matt?
They do indeed,
It's a
yes.
dreadful job title. I suggest you have it changed straight away. There's the Open University out there. There are plenty of online tools. The Khan Academy is well known. Why did this come to the fore?
So the Open University has been doing distance learning for over 40 years and so I think it was an obvious choice for when UK universities were thinking about coming together to do something which was a response to what was a really interesting movement that was happening in the US. And so what we're trying to do is create something that is a bit different, a bit distinctive, brings a different kind of approach to it. So social learning is very much at the heart of what we do, and what we want to do is create a service that is very accessible and an enjoyable kind of thing that we think will be something that extends the range of education to millions more people across the world by making it a very enjoyable and normal thing to do.
How come it's free?
Well, if you want to try and broaden access to as many people as possible, the obvious thing to do is make it as easy to access as possible. And so we want to put those courses online for free. The learning is very much free, and we want to do that in order to get the education out there to as many people as possible. The business
I
model
mean, I
is
asked for
basically...
it, Matt, because, you know, there are kids out there paying £9,000 a year for their university tuition. Are they subsidising this?
So the business model is that although the learning is free, we are offering premium services alongside that. So that the obvious one that people want once they've completed our courses is some kind of proof that they've done so. So if you can get thousands and thousands of people learning for free, then you can get a number of them that make the business model make sense in terms of paying for the courses. The other thing is that it's about extending the reach of that education out, so that those people who take university courses can maybe do taster courses beforehand, so that they can make sure that they are picking the right courses for them, so that when they do spend a lot of money on their education, they're doing so in a way that is where they know that the course is very much for them.
Sorry, just explain that cash side of it. So you can learn for free, but if you want a badge or a certificate at the end, you have to pay for it. Is that how it works?
Yes, and it's very much an optional thing, and so we are looking at ways where it makes sense for things like continuing professional development and those sorts of things, where people are looking for that kind of proof that will help them in their career and those sorts of things, but doing it in a very, very cost-effective way, because they can do it kind of online, and they can join a community of thousands of people on the internet from across the world, and get that kind of really interesting social experience.
I've got to ask you, how much does it cost then?
So we offer statements of participation, which are £24 each.
All right, that's okay. What about something more that you've passed a certain standard, something akin to a degree qualification? How much does that cost me?
So it's very early days, so we're starting off with something fairly kind of small in terms of the participation in courses that are reasonably short. We are also piloting things like online exams, so we're running one at the moment with the ACCA, which is the accountancy professional body, which exempts you from part of a foundation diploma in accountancy, and that's very much the kind of first steps towards something that might become much more kind of more larger scale kind of qualifications and so on. But as you mentioned earlier, it's our first birthday, so we've only been doing this for 12 months or so, so we're still working all of that out.
Okay, but the accountancy qualification, how much does that cost the student?
So the exam to take for that is £119.
Okay, so when I say free, I don't want to misrepresent this then to our viewers. It's not actually free. If you're going to do the course and get a qualification, it's not free.
The courses are completely free. And lots of the things are recognised. In terms of putting things on your CV, being able to have a really good conversation with a potential employer.
Right.
If you're a doctor and you need to do some continuing professional development, actually lots of people are beginning to see that these courses really do make sense. And I think it's also that the dialogue that you take part in with people from across the world is really interesting. So we have a course on cancer, where you have world-leading researchers, you have medical practitioners, you have people who possibly want to study medicine, and then you have people who have cancer themselves or know people with cancer, who are all engaging in a really, really interesting, vibrant social debate with each other alongside these courses.
Yeah, I can see there's merit in that, and that kind of coming together in peoples might be like nothing on earth, and you might not even get that at a university campus. I was going to ask you about the sort of feedback loop. What replaces the traditional tutor group to help a student along the path where they got stuck, for instance?
So alongside every piece of content there is a little pink icon which allows you to click it and take part in the discussion that is happening alongside each piece of content. And then there are moments in the course as well where there are set piece discussions where you're asked to kind of discuss a particular subject. We find that over half of our learners engage very much in that kind of social dialogue, and the people that don't, we think, are also reading that content and learning vicariously from the fact that other people are discussing things. Very much like if you were in a traditional tutor group, lots of people tend to listen to other people as well as kind of contributing themselves.
And in terms of the range of subjects you've got on offer, I know you're only a year into this, but what have you got? What's the range of the scope of topics I could study?
So this week we've got one starting on cybersecurity, which might be very much of interest to your viewers. We are starting 3 courses in collaboration with the BBC around World War I. So there's one on aviation, there's one on international diplomacy, and there's one on heroism. There's a creative writing course coming up. There's one on branding. I'm currently doing one on Hadrian's Wall and life on the Roman frontier. There's one on behavioural economics. So we have a whole range of different kinds of things that hopefully will inspire all sorts of people to kind of refine their love of learning.
And are you getting all the universities right across the piece, from Redbricks, from Oxbridge and everybody involved in this, or is it just a small group at the moment?
So from the UK, we broadly have 26 of the top 30 universities involved. We're very open to talking to anybody else that would like to become part of the partnership. We're broadening that out. We've just, over the last 6 months or so, we've brought on board 10 international partners, so it's very much an international service these days. So we have a couple of universities from China, we've got South Korea, we have universities from across Europe and Australia.
OK, and you can do an entire university course without ever having to go to the student union bar?
You can indeed.
That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. We'll have to leave other people to decide. Head of Product. Get a new job title, Matt. Matt Walton.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed for being with us. And just referring back to our earlier conversation about Bitcoin or Bitcom, we asked you your thoughts. Will it ever become a major world currency? Well, right now, the snapshot amongst our viewers is no. 70% to 30% is the way that's gone. So Geoffrey Robinson definitely won our further exchange. Thank you for watching Digital View. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on Twitter at Sky Digital View.